So especially as an artist, when your livelihood and everything else like depends on your ability to create, I think that's what pushes a lot of artists, musicians into drugs and God knows what, because I'm not in that scene, but you have been, like, where you've seen different kinds of artists like push themselves beyond their limit to be able to create something so that they can keep going and be relevant, because they don't want to lose that. I mean, what is your experience with that?
Yeah. So I don't know if it's entirely about needing to create, like as far as the reason. I think it's more so just the relationship with creativity. That's a big answer to that question, and it's a
big question. I know that.
No, and it's a really good one. I'm glad to talk about it or try to shine some light on it. I think it has to do with, well, one, artists are dabbling around in those deep thoughts and feelings so much, and it can be hard to deal with, and sometimes those places are lonely or darker. You don't feel like you can relate with other people as much. Also think that there's a lot of influence, just throughout history. There's a lot of creative people that have used some kind of substance or something like that in creativity. So I think people, at least for me, like I thought, okay, well, if I do these things out of curiosity or fun or whatever the reason was, that maybe there's something to it that adds to the creativity. And I do think to an extent that can be true, but I think that it's a fine line to walk, and the repercussions are risky, and I just think there can be a lot of negative repercussions to that. But I think it has to do a lot with emotion, thought, and then, kind of the attachment to how it allows you or can allow you to feel like free to an extent. But even then, it's not always that way, because you can maybe go to this place where you feel like you can be more creative, but it's hard to control that. With substance or something like that. Maybe it can be too much, or you might not be well mentally. If you're doing something for a long period of time, then you're not functioning as well as you could. You may be more depressed because it chemically can change you and alter chemicals in you. So then it can turn darker, it can be scarier. But then again, you feel the need or attachment to it. So it's a kind of a twisted thing. But for whatever reason, there is a relation with substance and creativity, but I think it's to get to a place of feeling free or feeling more intimate with whatever it is you're making, and kind of eliminating any kind of like background noise or anything like that, or negative self-talk. But then again, the twisted side of that is that it can also provoke that. So it's just really hard to tame and control. And I think over time it's more destructive than not. So that's some of what I think. I could say a lot more about it, but that's kind of like what I initially think to that question, at least right now in this moment.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense, actually. I never thought of it that way, just because like I'm not an artist, I haven't been in that position. But you explaining it makes sense. Because, at one point in your life, you're kind of taking care of yourself. And this is just not necessarily you, just a person, an artist taking care of themselves. They take this drug and it enhances, because that's what a drug does. Either it numbs you or it enhances something. So like it enhances the other parts of you, the creative parts, and you're able to use that. But then if you continue to keep doing that, you lose yourself to the substance. So whenever it enhances nothing but the substance, because that's what you've become.
It can definitely detach you from reality over time, depending on there's so many different kinds of substances, but it can definitely take you out of touch with like day-to-day living.
And that's what you need, because that's what people relate to, Do you think there's a way to access that part of us without needing to numb or all of that?
I think so, yeah. I think just being yourself.
Yeah.
Because I think anything that anybody expresses creatively, whether somebody else thinks it's good or not, it's still expressing something. I think if you're true to yourself and you're showing up and like honestly being who you are, then I think whatever you're going to do, it's going to reflect in that. Also think drugs kind of mimic aspects of spirituality. So I think that is also something that people get attached to in it, or can. But I think you can access that. I think it's a practice. I think the more you do something, then I think the better you get at it, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. So I don't know if I have like a straightforward answer for that one, but I think it has more so to do with the relationship you have yourself and if you're showing up honestly as who you are.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't think there is an answer to it. So just even having some of your thoughts shed light.
Yeah.
And I think you're right, because I remember learning how to finally learn how to show up in my body and to feel the emotions and live in those emotions and carry on. And it is a practice. It had to do an everyday thing. It was because I was so about numbing. And that's just because there was chaos inside of me that I didn't know how to sort through. I didn't know how to deal with. And I didn't want to. But learning how to do that, then tapping into it, and then learning to kind of control it, I think that's a much better way of trying to be creative, like learning how to tap into that deep part of yourself and learning how to tap out. It may be harder than just taking a drug, definitely harder than just taking a drug. And it will definitely take a lot longer, but I think it will definitely be a lot more sustainable.
Something that's making me think of is a part of my creative process also is expressing the challenges, whether it's like good things or hard things that we go through, like some of the ways that we feel, like you're saying, like tapping into that through art, whether that's even like I do a lot of writing in my art as well. Journaling is a big part of like a big coping skill, recovery, very healthy thing. So like doing that in the art, I was able to kind of like, not only is that the way to relate with others, like, hey, I feel this way, this is what I struggle with, or the positive sides of it, anything that's good that's happening in life, but actually using that as a tool to relate with other people.
Yeah.
And potentially help them in their journey or their recovery. So it's more, to me, it's more than just an image. There's so much complexity involved. And then the actual lived experience and story, you can't buy that, like somebody's lived experience.
You can't manufacture it.
Yeah, even the AI thing that you were talking about, I don't know where that's all going to go, but I can even see people not being able to discern reality. I mean, sometimes it's hard now when you're looking at stuff online and not sure what to believe, or if a story's true, or even if a picture is true or real.
Yeah.
And as we've seen over time with just movie and, anything like on a screen, it gets more real. Like there's things that look more and more real. So it's like, what's the point where we're not going to be able to tell the difference or things like that? I don't think about that much at all, but I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if I were to sit and really think about it, I'd drive myself crazy.
Probably. And it's like, what can I do about it?
Literally.
Yeah. So it's like really all I can do is try to be myself and hope that I'm doing that right, and hope that it helps somebody else along the way.
Yeah.
So that I just try to keep things really simple. I made things very complicated like in my early life, and I think part of recovery for me was also just simplifying everything and waking up and having somewhat of a routine, which I don't have like the best. It's different, so it's not like stable. Just because like I'm in recovery, I do not have things figured out,
Oh,
like,
yeah, no, 100% no.
No. This is all trial and error, like
Yeah.
all the time. I mean, there's some things that I feel like I do well or I've gotten a lot better at, but it is very much so like a learning experience every day, every week.
But at least like you're willing to try.
Yes.
I think that's what it is that you're willing to try something else. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But we both have figured it out. If you keep trying, you'll find something that's not destructive, that won't take your whole life or cost you your whole life.
It's the first step, like taking the first step.
Yeah.
I don't know, like these days I do look more forward than backwards. Something I struggled with was living in the past, which every time I did something, I was overanalyzing it, beating myself up about it. Even if it was just like conversation or an interaction with a person, the most simple things, I was like overthinking it so much. And now I look more forward, so I don't think too much about how I used to be, because I don't even feel like I'm a completely different person.
Yeah.
I don't feel attached to who I was in the past, or I don't feel like I don't relate with it as much. Like I remember, and I guess I can relate with it or with people going through those things, but I don't identify. That's what I'm looking for. I don't identify with who I was in the past. I do feel like a new person often. I feel like it changes so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a gift that we have, and the way we are able to cope, knowing that we can change, that we don't have to stick to who we were or how we did things, that we can do something different and be someone different. And that reality, that's something like I try to help all my members with, is that reality that you can be different and you can do different. It's just taking those small steps that are really hard, but so worth it to get you to that point. And sometimes it may take you an entire year to do one step.
Yeah, I had to start really, really, really. I do think there's a lot of like core things that people like, principles and things. For instance, like gratitude or something like that. You know, like I remember I didn't know what that meant, and sometimes maybe I still don't. But I know that I just started thinking about mental illness. It's the way we think about things. At the simplest thing, it's the way that we perceive things and how we think about it, and we can change that. And I didn't know how to do that, but also it's such a long process. because we're thinking in certain patterns for so long, and we don't know, if we don't even know that we can change it, then we're just on autopilot, with the way that we are and think. But when we can become aware of it, something like gratitude, I just started trying to see things in a different way. It's like, I'm thinking like, I have to go to work today. It's like, if I rephrase that to, well, I get to go to work today, and I try to view it in a positive light as possible. That's just one small example. But in my early recovery is like, I'm glad that I can breathe air. Like I was thinking about the most simple ways, because I was just so beat down mentally that I was like just appreciative of sunshine and things like that, and really starting to think on those really small levels. That started to change things for me. Things started to seem a little bit brighter.
Yeah.
But it is a practice, and it does take time, and it's not easy. I'm not saying that it's easy at all. I mean, I still struggle with that from time to time, although I feel like I've came a long way. Yeah, I think just, those small things. There's some other ones, like being honest with yourself, not blaming everybody else and everything else, and taking some accountability for yourself. So there are some hard truths in there as well, because we build this reality of how we think life should be or how it is, but are we right in that? And I had to deconstruct a lot of that. I didn't know that I needed to, but I realized I had a lot of flawed ways of thinking, and like a lot of hard ways of thinking that I needed to get rid of. And I don't remember specifically what those are in this moment, but I just know that was a big challenge for me, that it was like I needed to kind of like rethink everything almost, or at least be open enough to accept a different perspective or reality.
Why do you think that's so hard for people to do?
I think change is difficult and uncomfortable, and it takes effort, and I think people want things to be easy. Also think there's a lot of fear involved. There's so many unknowns to life. There's so many things we don't know answers to. Ultimately, I don't know, but I think those are some of the reasons. Maybe. And I mean, somebody has to first even think that they need to change. Otherwise, why would you?
Otherwise, why would you?
If you don't think there's a problem and that everything's okay, it's like, well, why would I need to change the way I am? I had to, because my life was unmanageable and I was miserable and I was not okay mentally. I couldn't function in society. So I needed to do something. And even then, I kind of fought that. But I'm just lucky, honestly, so lucky that I had family, and blessed that I had family. If it wasn't for them, I don't know where I would be. They've supported me along the way in so many ways, giving me a place to live, things like that. Eventually able to get back on my feet, and it's been a struggle. And even now, when I'm in those moments where I'm thinking, like, why me, or why isn't this working out for me, or things like that, when I'm having those thoughts, there's so many people that are in worse places or situations than me, and I'm so much further than I was back then. So I have to remember to be grateful. Kind of tying back in with the part where we were talking about trying to get to the next place and not being content, another thing of gratitude. But if I'm not grateful for all the things that I do have, more will never be enough.
Exactly.
I can just feed myself with more material things, whatever it is. If I think I need to get the next item or go to the next place or wherever, it's just never enough. So we have to somehow learn how to be content with who we are in the moment.
I think gratitude is more of like a perspective than it is a feeling.
Somebody told me once an action word also, to live, to like appreciate life, to just accept the things that we have, and kind of like counting your blessings, I suppose. But I think it is a perspective, like viewing things.
Because you're right, more won't be enough, because you'll always be looking for more. You're always trying to consume like this endless hole, and the whole point is to get out of the hole altogether and just live in what you have. And that could be a lot, or that could be really little, but the feeling is still the same. Gratitude.
It's just temporary. You might get something that temporarily makes you feel good, but then it's kind of the same as the hunger thing. Or it's making me think of a kid that like wants a toy. It's like you get them a toy and they might play with it for a second, and then they want another one every time you go to the store. So it's like
100%.
The next thing.
That is the perfect example of our experience with like desire, because your mind fixates on it, and then you have it, and then it wants something else because it has it, and it's no longer new, it's no longer fun. So I really appreciate all the things that you've brought today and were vulnerable with, and I think a lot of people will relate to your perspective and your life, because it has been hard, but it has been beautiful too. And you've made the best out of all of it. And you've overcome so much to come here and to get here. And I hope for upcoming artists who watch this wouldn't give up on their art, even though they may never become the next like Michelangelo. They're still amazing artists that speak to people. And he spoke to thousands, you may speak to one, but who knows what that one, you may save their life.
Thank you for that. Thank you for having me on and talking with me and letting me have a space to share parts of my story and my life. And I think it more so is just about staying true to the creativity. The longer I go along with the journey of art, it's not so much about any kind of wealth or fame or anything like that. Like when I was younger, I probably definitely had like thoughts and dreams and aspirations of something like that, but I've always stayed true to like the creative part of it more so than that. But like the more I go along with this, it's more so like I just want to stay true to myself and make the best art that I can. Whatever happens with it after that, like I'm okay with it. I'm at peace knowing that like that's more important to me than anything beyond that. So anything that comes after that is like just an additional blessing, you know? Yeah.
What's really interesting is that I thought of that is that a lot of artists or musicians, whatever, all is art, is that they start off with expressing themselves, being true to their creativity. And then because of the demand of the world and fame and all of that demands, they start tailoring to that. And because of that, they lose their creativity. And then they end up going through all this crisis, all then to just end up back to just trying to go back to where they started with their creativity when the fame and money never mattered. And, you know, I'm actually really lucky to have been able to just like witness that with someone else. Like, you know, Toby Mac, I don't know. I don't even know who Toby Mac is, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like seeing them go through that over and over again and then realizing like there really is nothing there to be found. Because if they're going back to where they even started, then obviously what they found wasn't even close as good as what they already had.
I think if I would have gotten all kinds of recognition or something like that at a different time in my life, it wouldn't have been good for me.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have been ready. I don't think I could have handled it. So I'm really grateful actually that I, you know, didn't have something like that happen to me because things could have potentially been worse. So yeah, I think I've come to terms with all of it and I'm totally content with my life and where I'm at.
Imagine that. Someone actually being able to be content once in their life.
Maybe not like totally content. I don't know if anybody is, but
we're only human.
so much more content than where I was at other places.
Yeah, so much better than just chasing after things.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I'm going to be showing all his artwork. So please go check it out and leave your comments and show this man some great love for his art because it really is wonderful.
Thank you, Aya.
Of course, anytime. Thank you for being on here. Bye, guys.